just the overall feel again, once again in the crypto market is bearish. Unfortunately, it played out what I don't want to say we expected or we anticipated, but just a feeling that we had. It's a little bit cold here in Michigan right now, but just a little bit of a feeling that we had. Um, that XDC was not just an exception to the rule, and that it was actually showing us what was coming in the market. Talked about it that I liquidated a lot of things until proven otherwise, and unfortunately or fortunately, depending on how you look at it, this is broken down. I can't say that I'm surprised. In fact, I would have been surprised if it would have continued on to the upside. XDC is just too powerful of a token to be excluded from what was happening. It just didn't make any sense to me. And then when I started seeing the weekly candles, we've seen all the weekly bearish setups. We talked about the possibility of where we can fall. And as I was waiting to come on live, we fell out from $1.92 when I was setting it up. Came down to $1.85, $1.84. Now, does this open up the door to a possible reversal in the short term? Only time will tell. Only time will tell. It certainly doesn't hurt that we finally fell out, but the obvious issue is here. If you're coming back here to test that falling wedge, I mean, you're talking, you could extend all the way to $1.69 now. The more obvious problem that we have here is we fell out of a much larger pattern, and now this is going to have repercussions of its own. There's different things that we have to look at. Now, it's just not a cut and dry case of up. We're going to go way up. We've literally fallen outside of the breakout. And now I think the thing that is the overwhelming problem right now is now it's going to bring into the scope these larger patterns. Like, it's going to bring into scope, and not particularly this one, because this one's got a while, but it's going to take in that descending triangle now is going to be firmly in place. It is. That descending triangle is firmly in place. You got that downtrending resistance that, once again, we could not break out here to push us and invalidate this. We've got a flat support. This is the common. Let's get some of this out of the way to stop confusion. This is a common setup here. So I don't even think we should keep this in here. I think this will just confuse everybody. But we have a descending triangle. I mean, the descending triangle, it looks like it to me. If somebody wants to let me know. But if there's one thing that I can tell this audience is that it's not an easy world I live in. Trying to be the voice that goes typically against the grain is not an easy thing. But I come here every day committed and I stay true to what I think. You know, whether right or wrong, at least I stay true to my convictions. And like, you want to talk about a disaster going on here? Let's see. We've got price action. Man, oh man, that, I mean, just that little bit of price action just shot it up so quick in the weekly. That's just bonkers. So we'll see. In theory, I mean, I suppose we could turn this into a weekly hammer candle if we were lucky, but showing me what, there's two factors. One, XDC just continues down. Two, gold and silver came out hot, which, if anybody knows, they reprice silver, at least the silver eagles. So US Mint reprices eagles silver, just so they're not. The US Mint continuously reproduces American silver eagles. Which mint popular products? I want to know what the actual price. So reprice silver eagles from about 100 to 105 to 169 to 173. I was thinking 175, but we'll take it. So that's a repricing, and that tells you everything you really need to know. It doesn't mean that gold and silver is just going to go right to that price. But what it means is something deeper is going on. Platinum's up just almost 2%. Gold's up like 75 bucks. Silver's up 4.1%, made a new all-time high. And then right when this happened, crypto just dropped out. And we're at an all-time high right now in silver. And we're working in discovery. Gold broke out of this very big. Okay, let's start talking again. And then we got to get back to XRP. What pattern is this? This is my new approach. We taught a lot earlier. You got to find out the differences between the triangles and the wedges. And it's confusing. And if you find yourself confused, it's a great opportunity to sign up for the classes that start in February. Just look at my YouTube homepage. It's a great opportunity, especially if you want to support my work. What kind of pattern? I generally want to know, what kind of pattern is this? And then, but we got to go back to crypto, so we'll come back to that. But it is broke out to the top side right now. It's got higher highs for gold. We also have higher lows converging into a triangle. It's in an ascending fashion. It's an ascending triangle is what it looks like. And an ascending triangle, unlike a descending triangle, which is a bearish continuation, this is a bullish continuation, which puts the price target, if this is for real, gold's new price target is $5,200 roughly. So if this plays out, this could be the bullish push out. If it is, the markets are closed tomorrow, so gold and silver are going to have some time to kind of, without the miners open, kind of be able to do what it wants to do here. And you're talking about $5,200 is this projection. If it breaks out and does, well, it already broke out, but if it continues on like it's supposed to now out of the ascending triangle. Remember, XRP fell out, or Bitcoin fell out of smaller patterns. This rose up out of this pattern. And seeing XRP at $1.94, seeing crypto doing what it's doing, it's just the reason why we have to be honest. It's the reason why I'll sacrifice as many subscribers as if I have to get the right information out. With that being said, good evening. 8:08 p.m. Eastern Standard Time on this Sunday, January 18th, 2026. I'm XRP Future Millionaire, and I reside in the great state of Michigan. Beautiful, beautiful audience we have here this evening. We should all be blessed, honored, and privileged to be around each other, to be in the same room with people that have the same interests at heart, and just go ahead with the opportunity that we can study things deeper. Now we've officially come below that $1.99.7 area I've talked about from 2 Fridays ago. Not technically a support area or a CME gap in technical terms, but I call it the TFG, Tom's Futures Gap, or Tom's whatever you want to call it, but there was a gap sitting there. So now that we're on the bottom side of it, we have to, we're going to have to look at this in a weird way now. It feels weird that we're on the uptick and it's at $1.95. It really is, because now we're pushing up, but pushing up now. Earlier when we were trying to push up, it was at $2.04, $2.07, $2.06, and now when we're pushing up, it's at $1.95. So we need to find out, like we've talked about before, what we're looking for in these charts is a hammer candle to develop. We're looking for a hammer candle, which means this pulling down, then by the time this candle closes, we'd be at like $2.03 again. It would completely eat this up, and then we'd be contracting a new candle, still in an inverse head and shoulders. In my opinion, what it did now gives us more of a chance to break out than it did before, but it also gives us a hell of an opportunity to break down. This actually had to happen. Doesn't matter what side of the aisle you're on, this had to happen regardless. And if we actually pull this out, and we've talked about this, if we just pull this out like this, and then we start looking at it like this after the pattern evolves like it has, it starts to make a little bit more sense, doesn't it? We got to stay up with the times. And then we've got our expansion area just in case, right? We got the expansion area in case it wants to play through like a wedge. No problem. But what we want to do is make sure that we've also got resistance up here, and then this is what creates the wedge anyhow. This is just a down channel. downtrending resistance, and then you got this trending support that actually flips the pattern a little bit. That makes you feel like, we pulled ourselves into a weird spot here. That's what gives you the feeling that you flipped into a descending triangle on this instead of this is where I'm so fucking confused with XRP. Was that a falling wedge? Because I think it is. It's not it can't be I'm trying to debate the people who say that that's a descending triangle. It can't be a descending triangle because that you got lower support. So on the descending triangle, it would be a flat support. Just like on an ascending triangle, you would have a flat resistance and an uptrending support. Right now, you should have a flat support. So that invalidates the thesis that somebody would say that's a descending triangle. I think it fits the assertion that it was a descending wedge. I do. I think it fits the narrative. Now, this could be a fake out back inside of here. This is what I want everybody to be aware of. This is where it comes into, okay, if we listen to the Moon Boys, that's one thing. But now everybody's probably given up on the pattern. And honestly, you can't just give up until we get the rejection, because this is where you're going to make it or break it. This could very well get back over the top here, and, it could be almost like a fade. But obviously, we like to retest where the drop happens. So this is where all the marbles are made. This is where the Custonies, this is where the Stogies, this is where all of the marbles are put out onto the table. And the rich get richer and the poor get poorer, because it's at this exact moment where retail was already bent over and we run out of money. So if we keep buying the dip before the dip, how are you going to buy the dip when it gets to the right spot? So, I'm always so honored to be in front of everybody. I don't even know how else to say it. Do I think we deserve more than 35% likes here with 111 people and only getting 40 likes? Sure, I do. Am I going to harp over it? I damn well might. Is it going to get me down? Absolutely not. But do I think everybody should pay it forward and hit that like button and help this channel get out there? Even if you hate me for the pure fact I've been here every single day since March 24th of 2021, easily probably putting me in the Guinness Book of World Records for the person who's looked at XRP and done content for the most days in a row without a day off. So for that fact alone, I think everybody should hit the like button. I would love to grow this audience. We just can't seem to get to 50,000. Although I will say, once I changed the way I started putting this content out in the last 3 days, and how I changed my YouTube image, all of a sudden I got 37 followers in the last couple of hours, which actually like 60 something since I changed the image and kind of switched my approach a little bit. So I don't know if that's just coincidence or if this is going to be a new wave here. But if you're part of the new wave, I don't like to be comfortable, because I think I'm too damn young to stop, to be complacent and to be comfortable. See, when you're comfortable, you can't improve. So I'm making myself uncomfortable because I'm too damn young to stay complacent. I am. So if I'm not complacent, neither is anybody else. And we've stayed ahead of these charts. We called this out for days when it looked like that inverse pattern. And it could very well be in a wider inverse pattern, but that short-term one we called bullshit on. And we were right. Now that it's coming down into these areas, now's the question is this going to turn into some kind of hammer? Well, now we got it by the balls. We can watch it and know what we're looking at. And I plan on doing that with all of you, at least for a total of an hour here. At least this evening. We were already live for 2 hours earlier. Hamburger Helper, thank you so much for the $2 super chat. That was super generous. Like, seriously, thank you so much for that. If you guys are trying to get my attention, you can always send a YouTube super chat, as I don't have time to go through every single comment. It ruins the flow. But I definitely appreciate all of Tom's Army, and as I see some of you flowing, I'll definitely say hello. If anybody is newly membered, if anybody has an anniversary, share it in here so that I can say it. The Cannabis Podcast, thanks for being in Tom's Army for over 1 year at the I Told You So Bad. Looks like you changed your YouTube image. That looks sharp, my man. Very sharp. I knew something looked different. You changed the Cannabis Podcast logo. I think it looks more efficient. Maybe it just looks clearer on mine, but it definitely looks nicer. Thank you for not only being in Tom's Army for over 1 year with the I Told You So Bad, but gifting a sub. And it went to True. Oh my God, what a perfect person. True's been in here since, well, since the bear markets, the bear market lows. And he was trying to help me convince people when it was at the proper spots. Great on the technicals, great insight. Very busy though, works full-time job, just like many of the members in here. Couldn't have went to a better person. Couldn't have went to a better person. So I thank you for that, and I see True already thanked you. And True, welcome back into Tom's Army for 3+ months with the XP Meteor, where you belong, my friend. Crypto Plumber and Frankie Fresh, welcome in, and thanks for being in Tom's Army for 6+ months with the XP Predictor. And Janine, I hope you're watching, love, and I hope you like the new improvements to the channel. I hope you, and True, what do you think of the new channel logo, by the way? You think it represents this channel better? I went with the Matrix S style. You'd be one I can ask because you've been here for a long time, several years. Crypto Plumber 420, thanks for being in town over 6+ months with the XP Predictor. And Janine and Frankie Fresh, how do you like the new channel? How does everybody like the new channel image, honestly? Calvin, no, we didn't get bad news. The news has already been bad for risk assets. We just have a bad setup. We had an overextended setup. Hi, Tommy, I'm here. It looks wonderful. Is that Janine? Or is that... I feel like that's Janine. The Canvas Podcast, you like it? Excellent, I'm glad. And see, you're in with the new 2026. Oh, Janine, thank you so much. I thought that was you. I hope you're blessed. One day I hope to be able to sit down with you and Frankie Fresh. Me, you, Julie, and Frankie, out on a couples retreat. I think it'd be so cool. There's a few people in here that I would love to, and you guys are on the top of the list. That's for sure. Frankie is getting some food. Excellent. That's where he should be. He should be treating me like a queen. Let's see. Thinking Shanghai might rocket silver. I know it's a tricky thing. Me too, Janine. I swear I said it before, but in 2025, there's a few people that were a real blessing, and you're definitely on the top of that list. You and Frankie Fresh. It's for Frankie. Now Clam Bellies. Knick Knack Patty Whack, welcome in. And Dirty Train Rider, thanks for being in town during 6+ months with the XP Predictor. I noticed Platt Good Seas and Hood Class snuck in here 3+ months with the XP Meteor. Hood Class likes the image, excellent. And Plant Good Seas says, image reflects positive growth over the months I've watched. Oh, I appreciate that. And I seen you join the classes for February. I appreciated it. I seen you join. So I just wanted to welcome you into there. Oh, that makes me happy. Janine, I definitely will. She's laying down right now because he fell asleep, and he's still getting over his skin infection. He's on an antibiotic and a couple different creams, some for his eyes, some for his mouth. It started with like dry lips and stuff. In Michigan, it gets bad. Like you get the winter burn and stuff. And he's autistic and stuff, so he's licking his lips, and well, it turned in, I think, to more of like a skin infection, and then around his eyes he had some redness. It wasn't pink eye, but it was definitely some kind of infection that spread. But it seems to be improving. No infection, no temperatures or anything, so he should be good. He's been happy, so that's definitely been something we've been dealing with. But, we're blessed. He's blessed. This audience is blessed. Even when we deal with stuff, we're all blessed because we have our Lord and Savior, Yahweh, Yeshua, Emmanuel, Jesus Christ. And I firmly believe with the audience we have in prayer and scripture that we have God who presides and watches over this audience. Amen. Now let's continue. Where do I think XRP can go? Well, gut, I know we can go sub-dollar, but does that happen right now? My gut would say probably not at this exact moment. I would say that we've got to see how this pattern, and I'll show you what I firmly believe. We're working within this now. We can forget everything else, and this is what we're going to have to watch for the foreseeable future. It is what it is. I'm going to turn this. I hate to do this. But this is going to become the predominant chart. And it's unfortunate because this was our technical first target up. And to get to where we want to go, we might have to retract and clear out a lot of... There's too much leverage. And the ETFs are sucking us dry. So, I mean, to confirm a pattern, can we say that that finished off another resistance tap? I think so. So if we just... Now we're looking for a third tap of support. So I think if you base it on the... And it's tough. Because I don't want to be that guy, but I have to be that guy because the odds are if you go to 10 other stations, they're all going to be stroking your ego. So basically what ended up happening here is we ran out of steam. We did about as much as we could in the time frames we were in. Rejected. This is where it started in support. This was a flat support. We can all agree April 7th. This is the resistance, but that's in a wider base now because once you came down here to the flat support, now it resets the pattern. So you've got the support. Now you got a resistance. Already off the bat, that's where we were saying, oh God. Like, yeah, it looks great. It went up there, but the way it set it up, not exactly what you want to see. Came all the way back down to support, and now it's the make it or break it point because we went rejected, weekly rejected. Now a second tap of support violently. Back, and the fact we got rejected here is not a good signal. That's the one that should keep you up at night. Because we had all this clear out back up, a complete clear out, and still didn't have enough strength. No volume precipitated this either on the push up. That's the other part that would make me a little bit nervous here. Well, we already know that a flat support, it technically needs 3 hits to be considered a descent, or well, for this to verify as a, descending triangle. We can look at it, though, because we don't want to misrepresent it, so let's see. Let's see if we're misrepresenting it. I want everybody to learn, and if you feel like you don't have a grasp on this, please join the classes. I'll mention it a little bit later, but I can help you save yourself a lot of money, a lot of frustration, and I do this every day for free, but sometimes you need to level up and go a step farther, and if you need that, I have the guidance for you, and it's going to be a running database starting February 2nd. And twice a week, without exception, we're going to get together an hour a day, and it's going to take a very long time to get through this. Might take years, but I have all the time in the world to help and to try to. And I'm betting on my own brand, so you don't have to worry about me going out and becoming a financial analyst or becoming a financial planner, an economist, or I'm betting on myself and I'm pushing my own brand. So if you want to continue pushing and help me grow, I would greatly appreciate your vote of confidence. Your membership in Tom's Army means a lot. The leveling up into the classes definitely helps. If you ever send a super chat, give subs, share this, like this, comment, and just help me grow, it means the world to me. So the descending triangle is technically a bearish continuation pattern. So it's a bearish chart pattern, and obviously we have the flat supports. We've already been building up. Technically on a pattern, you need 3 hits on each side. And we looked at it from a weekly time frame, and we've got the 2 hits of support. We got many hits of resistance, confirming this resistance. Can we agree that that looks like a descending triangle? Yay or nay? Yes or no? Is this a descending triangle? Yes or no? What did True say? You very well could do that. Oh, we need that guy. I agree. Mrs. Stott, welcome in with Mr. Stott, and thanks for being in town only 3+ months with the XRP Meteor. Edward, also in 3+ months. Welcome in, my friend. Nick Knack, yes. Everybody's saying yes. Couldn't be more textbook. I agree. So if we all agree on this, what's the argument? What's the argument that this is a descending triangle and that's a bearish consolidation? Now, we can ask ourselves, because it came in on an upward tug, what exactly that, because it's coming up on an upward tug, right? Well, unfortunately, when they come on an uptrend, it can change the dynamic because a lot of times it comes in on a downward tug. So, but on the recent part, it's up, right? So it's kind of fascinating with how this formed, because traditionally you would see this coming from the other direction. Now, what you would normally want to see is an ascending triangle in this pattern, but unfortunately, we rose into a ascending triangle. So when a descending triangle forms after an uptrend, it signals weakening buying pressure and a potential shift from bullish to bearish sentiment, often indicating the uptrend is ending and a downtrend might begin, with the price typically breaking below the flat support line to confirm this bearish continuation or reversal. Though less commonly, it can break upwards to signal bullish continuations if buyer demand remains strong. That's our biggest issue, is not strong right now. The buying demand has fallen off a cliff. So yes, we can still break out in a very bullish way. But what we wanted to see here is not a descending triangle. And we could very easily get outside of this and maybe it is a wider pattern. But the longer that we stayed on this down track, the more obvious this became. And there is no volume. So if this were to break down, unfortunately, nothing's changed from June when I was talking in April about this turning in very bearish. I mean, you're looking at this retest, and it speaks to this retest. We never, ever, and I've been saying this since the beginning, we never back tested the 7-year consolidation where we finally broke out. We never back tested it, folks. We can act like everything's good, but if XRP is nothing more, it's very finicky. It likes to do things by the book. It's always made me nervous that we didn't back test that area. Very nervous. And you guys have heard me in the past say I would rather backtest this now than later. I've said it a gazillion times. And I actually remember we redid this just a little bit, I remember. I know why this looks like this at the end. Because we looked at it from the all-time pattern now because we did break out. We looked at the all-time pattern on this one. Just in case we decided to fall through. And when we asked worst case scenario, you know, this uptrend would be worst case scenario. It's been a long time since I went back to it. But more than likely what would happen is if this descending triangle fell out, the technical target is the back test, the 7-year resistance. Isn't that insane? Isn't that insane how that works out? We can argue with ourselves all we want, but the fact remains, you know, the hype, the FUD, the fear, the FOMO, all the channels and all the sources that tell you that it can only go to X, Y, and Z, up, and they'll come back later and call XRP a pile of shit. Well, but, oh, that's the hope. Notice how I drew a pennant out here, right? Who said the pennant? Thank you. That's why we just need it to break this resistance. That's why we're hoping for one of these to turn into a hammer candle. Hammer candle. Don't break support, break resistance, and then we're talking. Then it's ball game. Because look, if this is a pennant flag, whoever said that, you're brilliant. Because look, I would argue that we came in support, resistance. So resistance, support, resistance, support. Just trying not to break down, and maybe it doesn't squeeze and instead it breaks out here, but we have a clock. Your clock is get above, get above, get above, somewhere, get above before you do this. Like, we got to get above. It's urgent. So when I say this is urgent, we're running out of time. This is what I'm talking about. We can't afford for this to be a descending triangle if you want to push up. That's a good question about the poll. I mean, it could be why this never played out properly because of exactly what you said, Mr. Stout. We really won't know. You've been saying it that for a long time. I can see it going lower with this dismal volume. That's the one thing I've been hoping for, is that I would be proven wrong because volume would come in and then I could say, okay, we're going to take the... But the volume hasn't been there. Like, it really hasn't. And there is, I always say it's embarrassing. Not because XRP is embarrassing. What the hell? 5 gifted subs. Wow, if that's not believing in what I do, that I don't know what is. Dirty Train Rider, thanks for not only being in Tom Zone for 6+ months with the XRP Predictor, but also the gifted subs. Like that. Oh my God, look at that, guys. Elmer J. Fudd got it. Mr. Fudd, are you in here this evening? Oh my God, yes you are. Elmer Fudd is in. I told you things happen for a reason. Elmer has been in here for a while. Great person. Been activated. He's been activated in this community. Been active with the community. Been talking. Been very informative. Been very pleasant. Even a little shenanigan-y, which I like. And gets a gifted sub. That's what I'm talking about. Congratulations, Elmer. And if you want to join the Telegram, I think we've talked about this before. Go on the YouTube now, and there's a link there for the members of Tom's Army. There's 502 people in the Telegram now, which is incredible. Incredible. But thank you so much for that, Dirty Train Rider. And Elmer gets it his first month in Tom's Army with the emoji badge of me being abducted by aliens. Definitely deserved it. Timmy Mack, Marie Harrington, Eric Nolan, Pete Moser. Congratulations on getting your second month badges each in the Dusty's Outhouse Crypto News. Welcome to the club. Defined welcome in, sir. And I'm glad you're back and everything was good, safe, and your weekend went good. I know you had a very busy weekend at that. And thank you for being in Tom's Army 6+ months with the XP Predictor and a very trusted mod. Very trusted mod. It says hit that like, consider subscribing and joining Tom's Army for the best technical analysis on YouTube. Every day you are not in the Telegram, you're missing out. I couldn't agree more. Couldn't agree more. Could not agree more. Man, I think that's so cool that Elmer got that. That's an awesome one. Good evening. Thanks, Tom, for warning everyone about this drop. I can honestly at least say that I tried. Now, whether or not we can pull up here and that this is the end of the drop and it was just to $1.84 and it's spade's a spade and we can just start moving up or not, only time will tell. But the unfortunate truth here is we've got to invalidate this descending triangle. And the farther we drop out, the more obvious it becomes. The only good news I'll continue to say is at least we stayed up on. Even with that drop, we decided to pull back up over that. Wow, it's close. We're trying not to get rejected here, but this is also emphasized in the other chart in the descending triangle to an extent. But this gives you a little bit closer symmetry. It's funny because even this played out bullish and then it just turned down. So the initial part did, but then it created the head and shoulders. We talked about it earlier. I know it looks like an inverse head and shoulders, but we talked about the clear shoulder, head, shoulder. Yeah, it extended, but it just created another. We even talked about it on Bitcoin. I know a lot of channels came out and they were talking about the liquidity at 98. What did I keep saying? Guys, I know there's liquidity at 98, but how are we going to ignore the liquidity at 92,000 and then 88? At least the 91,500 area should have been of concern. To 92.4, I believe it is. And I sometimes I hate when it plays out so much, but look, it back tested this. So in reality, guys, are we bearish, or could there be something bigger at play like that? That's where I'm gonna say let's cool off a minute and let our emotions, because this, I mean, for all intents and purposes, was that not a symmetrical triangle here for Bitcoin? So unless it's a fake out, this should be going, we got the back test we were waiting for. So I would like to think maybe that this was a quick back test and maybe we're just going to push back up now. We've got to pump it up. Absolutely. Thanks, you have helped me time the markets. That's all I'm trying to do, Rio. Help you have enough confidence to time it. And like I said, time in market to me is not important. It's like timing the market is far more important than time in market, because if you time it properly, it allows you the time in the market. Think about it. The timing allows you that time in the market. If you mistime it, even if you stay in it forever, it doesn't work. What do you think about the market sentiment is? Do we feel a very, very sneaky reversal can happen? No, you are not wishful thinking. That's exactly where I was flipping my mojo to right now. Look at what Bitcoin's doing. It's back tested. No matter how violent, it back tested. And isn't this? I want you guys to write in what this is. I got to grab another water. What kind of pattern is this? I may have gave it away already, but what kind of pattern is this that it broke out of and is now officially back testing for the first time properly? A symmetrical triangle, is that what you're trying to say? Hey, Trey runs wild. Welcome in, friend. Although Coinbase seems to have outages at the worst possible time, that is true. So we have downtrending resistance, so lower highs, and we have higher lows. So, and let's just on a downtrend, right? It's a symmetrical triangle. So indicating a indecision. So it's breaking down from an uptrend, but if it comes in on a breakdown, oftentimes that's a signal of exhaustion on the breakdown. But it's a neutral continuation pattern. So either this is a fake out and we're back testing, because they are technically neutral continuation patterns, which they technically try to lean towards the way they were going as they got into it. So technically, this came into it in a bearish fashion. Oh, yeah, yeah. You'll get muted. I get muted when I ask AI the question. I'm sorry. I should have said that. Who responded to that? Mr. Scott, thank you for that. Can I look back at the pattern, Vado Damas, and thanks for being in Town Zone for over 1 year at the I Told You So badge. Says, can you look back at the pattern, XRP pattern from the week of March 17, 2017? Ooh. Okay, you said March 17th, 2017. I'm going to assume it's somewhere around. Look at what January did. Okay, so good example. So look in March. Look where the volume's at. March 13th to March 20th to March 27th. Look at the volume surge. That's what we're looking for. That would be confirmation of a volume push. That's exactly what we'd be looking for. That absolutely confirmed the breakout, and then it continued in to the first real area. I don't know what the hell this is supposed to be. I'm not sure what this was supposed to be because it with the update it just threw it down there. But I mean, you had extreme volume that grew into here. We had a nice it grew into. Looks like we had. I would say it was probably a symmetrical triangle here too, but it was in the up direction. It formed that symmetrical likely because it looks like higher highs or higher lows and lower highs, and then it bounced up even higher. Then here, after it cooled off again you had higher lows and lower highs forming another symmetrical triangle, and it kept going, continued back up, and then you consolidated for a very long time. But it's never went bad. I mean, if you look at it legitimately, that's done nothing more than normal consolidation. So everybody who gets mad. Oh yeah, it was flat. That's why volume conferred the breakout. There was no volume. But you can see getting into that breakout, again, this formed a bullish consolidation here even. I mean, that's a symmetrical triangle. So, I mean, it actually, I always say XRP plays pretty routinely to the pattern. you have to have a lot of charts out there so you can stay, alerted to all of the pattern movement. But it does play pretty routine. You're looking for these kind of things. We're looking for these kind of things. Now, it's either it formed a pennant flag or it actually, for the first time in a pattern like this, formed a descending triangle. That means finally, after all this time, it needs to cool off for a minute and back test where it came from. And that could very well just be after a 7-year consolidation that started all the way back in 2018. Then you had a nice support here. You had a nice support here, which for some reason it's not the way it's supposed to be because of the update. But just for argument's sake, you can see how it came all the way back, came all the way through. But now, it does make some sense to back test this. So if that's the case, we would need unilaterally for Bitcoin for this to have been a fake movement out, just caught up in between some liquidity hunts, and that this would actually break back through, and this was actually a bearish breakout, a fake out at that, because those are technically neutral continuation patterns, and until it holds, you do get fake outs here. So technically, because the pattern was down, most times in a pattern like this, it technically is a neutral continuation pattern. So in theory, outside of a fake out, a lot of times it would break down here. It's almost like a holding pattern, you could call it. Artificial movement, and now we'll find out very quickly, in fact, if this is just a holding pattern for a farther move down that's going to bring us down here, because there is a huge liquidity gap at 88K. It is what it is. And then there's even more at 78 and 80. It opens up when you get down there. It just looks like now is emulating the pre-volume push. It absolutely could be, but the difference is the pattern setup. XRP was always in, and I showed it, a symmetrical triangle at these same moments. This is the first time when you look at it, if you want to compare apples to apples, and why it's a little bit different. If that is in fact a symmetrical triangle for XRP, that it actually is, and that's what we're playing out, because I could make the case too, and I've tried, if we did fall back within, uptrending, 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 downtrending, couldn't you argue that XRP, and just, guys, I know this might be a pain in the dick, okay? And I'm not saying we're going to come all the way back down here by any means, but what if it did something like this real quick? Okay, I'm talking about a quick wick, and I know that would be Devil's Gate, right? If it came down there, confirming this uptrend, because this would be the third area, and then you'd have that big symmetrical. Yes, it would be short-term pain, but do you know what this would equate to if this actually played out? This would be the bullseye. Whoops, this could be some ridiculous shit right here. This would just take it into a new level. And would I be against this? Absolutely. If you want to talk about some real big movement, you're going to have to do something like that. Like this would legitimately have to do something like that. And it's going to have to sucker in so much liquidity. And do you want to get up to those numbers? Remember when I had those numbers? This is how you would have to get up to these numbers. But you need something crazy like that. You need some kind of crazy veracity. Like crazy veracity. Because you'd have to open up this length of this pattern now more reasonably. Yes, we've had this shorter pattern set up for a long time. But have we ever back tested the breakout? Have we ever come back to even test any of this? No, we never have. I don't know what my cat wants. Hold on. Apparently my cat wanted to go outside even though it's snowing. Yeah, I'm not saying we have to go down there. I'm just saying that could just open a whole nother argument, but we got a long ways to go before we could even start talking about that. So if this does play out and this is a descending triangle, not a bull flag or a pennant flag, yeah, it would open up the target down to back test. So from 2018 in January all the way until November of 24, we were stuck in the same consolidation until we finally broke out here. The measured move played out identical for the first movement, big movement up, but we never back tested. So if we broke out of a descending triangle, very quickly came back down here, it would make sense to back test here. That's all I'm saying. I'm not saying it has to happen. What I'm saying is that if this pattern played out properly, this is some real stuff we have to talk about. You know? So I'd rather know. Now, if we want to avoid this, we invalidate this downtrending resistance, turn this from being a descending triangle into a bullish continuation, and that would have benefits of its own if you turn this into a bullish push. Because then obviously if it's going to push up to the top, you know, and it also is a very obvious optic here, because what's my level of concern? That 158-ish, because that is technically still within a bullish megaphone. But the longer that this downtrending resistance stays on, the more it switches from a bullish megaphone on the other chart into a descending triangle, which turns it bearish. We have to acknowledge that. Like, we can't ignore it. To ignore it would be to not pay attention. And if we're not paying attention, we're going to get roasted. I don't want to get roasted. You know, I don't want to get roasted. We only get one chance at this. Each cycle, you get one chance. That's why we learn from our mistakes, and if we bought the FOMO, we bought the big green candles, now's our chance to learn that lesson, if it's your first time learning the lesson, or if it's the time that you actually understood this time around. Because you never know when it's going to be the time that you actually learn the fundamental lesson. I never know when it's going to be, but now it's you know what happened? I started to look for clues. And I knew in my heart, and I've been saying it, that XDC is not the exception to the rule. And it's not just going to fall out by itself. It had these same patterns for us. And in fact, I mean, I pulled up a chart that I had drawn this out a long time ago. You know, a long time ago for XDC. And it's starting to seem to make more sense that could actually play out. And I've been going off this chart for a while. And then we started to just kind of mess around, and we started to talk about what could happen. Worst case scenarios of what we don't really want to happen, but I suppose what could. But then that would completely break the entire pattern. So then we're like, well, if that happens, then it busted upside. But that's the conversation we had part of the 2 hours earlier, too. It was kind of nice. And no way I'm going to tell you to go watch a 2-hour live. But, I mean, there was a lot of good information in there. We went over the Clarity Act, every word of it. Every word of it. We went over the new legislation that the Democrats are proposing. So... buy big green candles, produces big red dildos. Yes, indeed. Oh, yes, it is. And MQ, I'm proud of you, too. Because you kept telling everybody, yes, if it goes up to certain levels, in fact, I'm not going to buy more. I'm going to put more in my short. So you never swayed one bit. And I appreciate that consistency. And you've always been very honest. Yes, we can push up here, but we have a big chance of going down. And if we do get to these higher levels, all I'm going to do is add to my short. You've been very honest about it. Great job. Mr. Stott enjoying some fire out by the back. Excellent. Looked like a big W on the macro when you had multiple years up. It is. We're on an all-time W. It's called the Hank Hill ass syndrome, we call it. And it's absolutely valid. That doesn't mean that we can't go back down and absolutely, you know... But it is true. We have the all-time W. What the hell is this? Oh, wrong chart. Huh. Wait a minute. My charts are backwards now? How did that happen? Wow, their new update did a number on how my stuff looks. Look how stupid this looks now. Did I mention if you didn't look at the new update yet for Trading Me, you're gonna friggin' hate it? Wow, that's messed up. That's messed up. But yeah, you're absolutely right, Mr. Stott. The big all-time W. And also, um, there's so many things here that contradict everything else too. Because if you look, we had 3 pushes up. Took a while. We're trying to back test. Would we really fall out to come all the way back? I mean, there's an argument to be made that we don't need to come all the way back down there, but there's also the argument that says, "Hey, we can't ignore what's happening in front of us. Even if we want to ignore it, we can't ignore it." That's why all of a sudden now, this has to be the predominant chart. Even if we wanted to use the other ones, we can't. For the here and now, this chart just literally, it's everything right now. Yeah, I don't like it either, MQ. I don't like it either. But unfortunately, we gotta play the hand we're dealt. And to ignore the hand we're dealt is to just live in a fairy tale land. And if we live in fairy tale land in a risk asset, I can tell you one fairy tale that will become a reality, and that's the second and third and fourth job to pay for the mistakes of investing. Because the worst thing we can do is work for all these years and give it away in a matter of months because we don't I mean, that's the hard truth, and it happens to every investor. So if it's happening to you now, welcome to a club that we've all unfortunately experienced, but we've all done it in different chapters because we started trading at different times. But we all experienced the same lesson. For anybody to say they never experienced it is somebody telling you that they're not telling the truth, and you probably shouldn't listen to them. I mean, I'm not a financial advisor, so I don't advise you to listen to me. This is for entertainment, but this is also historical data, yada, yada, yada. Oh, yeah, I get super excited with the pumps, too. Super excited. I was very happy about this one until I realized that this turned it into a descending triangle. You know, I'm curious, it's kind of a bitch. But it was this push right here that made me go, oh, you know what? Unfortunately, I believe that we might have just confirmed a descending triangle here until otherwise noted. So now, until it proves me that it can just get over this area. Notice I was talking about that 224 area for a long time, saying just get over the 224 and we'll call it a day now in the recent times. And I mean it. If we can get over 224, I'll be very happy because then it pushes in the next direction. And you know, it's a much more happy, much more vibrant, a lot more followers, a lot more gifters, a lot more generosity out of people's pockets when we're going up. It's kind of hard to get donations and stuff when we're going down. That'd be like you being a salesman and trying to make sales during the Great Depression. Nobody's got any money, but you're going around selling an item that might be a good product, but no one's got any money to support it. Your product's only as good as the environment and economy around you, so. But, you know, like Mr. Scott said, you got to take the good with the bad, and I do that. That's why I come every single day regardless, and we do it together. We do it together. Oh, and like I didn't work out today, but, you know, you got to give yourself a day off. But tomorrow back at it. But, you know, that's the update for the day, so you guys can keep me accountable to see if I'm actually working out. So it's been a good move. Fucking silver about to rip. Oh, we got to talk about that before I leave. Shoot. I don't know if it's gonna rip or what we're gonna do, but right now gold's tempting that big breakout. Gold's tempting the big breakout. If we hold 4,620-ish area, I mean, our technical target, and that is an ascending triangle. Now, for anybody who doesn't know, yes, rising price action with higher highs and higher lows forming a triangle, specifically an ascending triangle, is generally a bullish continuation pattern. So I'm trying to teach as we go along. Do you see? No, it's not a flat. It's not an ascending triangle. I don't. Oh, wait a minute. No, because we have rising. It was not an ascending triangle. Not a rising wedge. No, That's what we were debating. That's what we were debating before. We were debating this before because that's what the debate was here. I remember now. Was this a rising wedge or was this a rising triangle? Remember we had that discussion. Well, technically, with the way this is, we have resistance, 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 and it's in a rising fashion. You also have rising support. So risky assets falling, risk off, about to rip markets 101 from you, Tom. Thanks. That's the appearance it's given right now, but we got to make sure that this breaks through. If it's a break up, if it's a breakdown, I always like to do this so people can see. Take this. Take this. If you don't know what you're doing, just go, hey, I need to, Google, I need to add something, please. You know, and say, hey, I don't know what the fuck's going on. And say, what is this pattern? I've never put it on this section like this. So, ascending triangle is generally a bullish continuation pattern, suggesting a potential breakout, an ending diagonal pattern. Oh, so it's doing what I put. I don't want it to do that. I want it to take its own interpretation. So, I mean, we can make an argument of everything, even with this pattern. Like, is this, yeah, the funny thing is on Jam Bullion, they were out of copper. Somebody was talking about it, so I looked. No, this is not Bitcoin. I didn't show a Bitcoin chart, did I? I did not show a Bitcoin chart. I showed a gold chart, in fact. Hold on. It's a good teaching moment. So we can see, I mean, the way that this is closing, or the way that this is moving, we'll see if we get the complete continuation. But there's an argument to be made about what's going on here. The higher lows, you know, you did have a high, a higher high, a higher high. So, converging. Nope, never feel bad taking profit. And MQ, excellent advice. And thank you so much for not only being in town during 3+ months with the XP Meteor, but also $4.99 super chat. That is super generous. That is super generous. But I mean, obviously, that's also speculative because the way I drew this out, I could very well do this and say that it's in some kind of a channel. You know, I could have done this slightly different, just depending on where you do this, but you know, I like to kind of look at it from where we started to where we're going. But obviously, when you run into things hot, it definitely makes a difference. So, but if it breaks out from here, that's $5,200. That's the bottom line. If this were to actually break out, and trying to make a case for it, certainly trying to make a case. But I mean, we got to see if this is a fake out. If it plays out, we don't have a typical trading day tomorrow in the traditional market, so it doesn't have to worry about like the mining stocks and stuff running. This technical target is like $91 if this plays true out of this. What looked like to me, um, looked like a bullish continuation. And the fact that it did bullish, it had a continuation here. I mean, it seems to suggest $101. So if that's the case, plenty of room to run in the daily. Plenty of room. So I'll be anxious to watch this. But everybody, my voice is a little tired. I'm going to call it a day here. I'm XRP Future Millionaire. I hope this brought some value. If you find yourself stuck, if you find yourself not knowing what's going on or need a little bit more help, consider the classes that start in February. I'm going to be putting a lot of time and dedication into this. You can go into the members section and you'll be able to see it. But there's going to be a lot of stuff that you can go over. And then this is just some of the stuff you're going to get into. And it's going to be even more refined than this. But you're going to learn how to do a lot of different things within there. It's going to be a lot of stuff. It's going to take a long time. A long, long time. And then I encourage everybody to read my intro, my information, so that you can get a better idea of what I do. But the live mastery classes start in February. Ready to stop guessing. You know, you can join the exclusive classes. It's not going to change the free content I put out every single day. I'm going to be doing the lives every single day just as it is. You're not even going to know I'm doing the classes unless you're part of the classes. So with that being said, be blessed. I appreciate all the support and, you know, be nice to each other and share a positive moment.